This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. There's now 15 plugins available for guitarists from Neural DSP, and in this video I wanted to kind of think about what I think might be the ones that represent best value for money, maybe the ones that I would go for. So the ones that I actually use quite often are Cordy, and I've also got Pliny. Now Pliny is still waiting for an update, and I don't know if this might change if the Pliny got the update. They tend to bring some of the newer features like the transpose, the doubler, right? I think those things tend to come along for the ride. So maybe then Pliny would be back, you know, worth another look. But at the moment, because that one's due an update, I think maybe Cordy is the one that I think is pretty versatile, has a good range of cleans and mid and sort of heavier, not heavy, but you know, lead tones. So Cordy I think for me is up there. A lot of the earlier kind of plugins like Nolly, Pliny, Cordy, so on, had quite a lot of overlap in terms of what's going in front of them and what's going behind them. So oftentimes I think the delays are quite similar and the reverbs too. That changed with Rabea and Petrucci. Petrucci obviously, so I think the Petrucci effects and the Rabea effects, maybe if you're kind of an effects person, might be the place to look for that stuff. So what I really like about the Rabea thing, you've got that kind of freeze reverb, and you've also got the icicles on the delay, which I think is pretty much the same as the crystals on the Petrucci. So yeah, I think either Petrucci or Rabea to me seem to have like the best post effect. The Gojira has some pre-effects, you know, if you're looking for octaves down and stuff, but I think also Rabea has an octave down, as well as having in front, you've got a dual compressor, which is the only one that has like that dual blade compressor, and a fuzz. Maybe Rabea might be one. I think so. The effects selection of Rabea, not mentioning the synth, which could be useful, I think either that or Petrucci I'd pick for the best effects. Aside from that, if you're looking for most versatility, I actually think the thing they brought out yesterday, the Mesa Boogie thing, probably takes the cake, because you've not only got the clean channel, which is based on sort of a Fender Bassman. If you know these Marshall Mesa Boogie amps, they're essentially a hot rodded Bassman circuit, the cleans, and then the dirty channel starts to then cascade the gain into that. That's sort of how it works. So you can get a really great range of tones from the Mesa Boogie suite. However, it is a little tricky to dial in, and I was just playing through factory presets in the intro there. I think it's quite possible to make that amp, like the real amp, sound pretty bad. So it's certainly going to take quite a bit of tweaking, but I also think there's the most versatility of all of their stuff within that. Probably, I think that's probably the case, because you've got so many options. You've got reverb and presence on the back, you've got the deep switch, you've got the 5-way EQ, as well as 2 gain controls, 2 channels, and 2 amps as well. So I think that would be my pick for that. Another shout out to the Tone King, which I think a lot of people really like in terms of more vintage-y cleans to mid-gain stuff. I think Tone King is one that really people do enjoy, and I think also it's probably the case that the standalone kind of amp ones that are based on like the actual licensed plugins from Tone King, Fortin, Mesa Boogie, those ones might actually be quite a bit more tweakable than the archetype ones. I think the archetype ones do probably win in terms of being a bit more plug and play. So if you're looking for instant gratification, I would probably say the archetype might be the ones to focus on. But value for money, I think it's probably a good idea to have sort of one of the more recent archetypes and maybe one of the, or 2, or even however many you want to buy, I guess, of the other ones, like the Mesa Boogie one, or particularly if they put it on sale at some point, maybe, because that one can really do quite a lot of tones, from all of this sort of Larry Carlton bass stuff, Robin Ford type stuff, because they do share a lot in common with Dumble style amps, as well as all the way up to your kind of heavier Lamb of God type, Metallica type, this sort of stuff. Although Lamb of God actually used a Mark IV isn't worlds away from a 2C, right? And Dream Theater, of course. Tim Henson plugin is a bit of a weird one, but I think that also has some really cool tones in it. But I think if you're not using that mini voicer thing, I think the effects for Petrucci and Rabea are probably a little bit more, they're a little bit more what I'm after. But yeah, what I'd be looking for would be the most kind of unique features in the plugins, and those seem to be like the Rabea Overlord synth, the Tim Henson mini voicer, but Petrucci effects now have quite a bit of overlap with Rabea. The Corey Wong and Pliny, the effects in those aren't super unique, and sort of like the tape delays and the delays that you find in most of the plugins I think are quite similar parameters and everything. Same with the reverb, so I'd be looking for literally like the Rabea Freeze reverb is a bit different, and the Crystals / Icicles is a bit different, so those would be the effects that I'd probably go for. This is trying to avoid having loads and loads of overlap within your plugins, I guess, but I think there are some really cool tones in the Corey Wong thing. And maybe with some of this, a bit less is more, particularly if you just bought that Mesa Boogie suite. I think you could probably get tons of great results. But if you've already got Petrucci, if you've already got a few other plugins, maybe you choose to skip that one. I'm not exactly sure. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. I think that would be the one that I like and use most often is the Corey Wong one. I think pretty versatile. And then I'm sort of impressed with the versatility of that Mesa Boogie one. And I really like the effects from Petrucci and Rabea. Those would be kind of my top 4 Neural DSP plugins, I guess. Let me know yours if you want.